They're coming to get you, audience.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mike in the Asylum with your hosts, Sydney Cisneros.
Jesse Neto.
Ron Van Busker.
And Liam Grant.
Join us tonight as we talk about some of our favorite horror movies and have a little
And this
round
time
table.
we mean that.
Yeah, this time we mean it. An actually good one for once. This week was Liam's choice, and I'm going to go ahead and let him take it away. Was this Liam's?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
It's weird when he picks a good one.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and let him take it away and introduce it to us.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure I only picked two crappy ones.
And we only had two that you picked, probably.
Exactly, we're batting for 100%.
Okay, alright.
Liam,
now
introduce
he's-
the movie.
Okay, so the movie I picked today was 1968, Night I can't even talk right. The movie I'm picking is
Night of the Lepus.
Night of the Lepus, absolutely. You better believe it.
Okay, sorry.
100%. It's Night of the Living Dead, directed by George Romero. And I'm talking about the 1968.
Yeah,
Sorry, I don't mean
1968.
to get off track, but Jesse just reminded me of it. So I was watching a cooking show, and the host of the host of the cooking show referenced Night of the Lupus.
Woo!
Which is
On how
really
to
weird.
cook rabbit?
Yeah, exactly. But it was like,
Rabbit.
why is he referencing this movie? Anyway,
I was going to say, you figure like no one knows what that movie is anymore, but you never know.
exactly. All right,
So-
go ahead and take it away,
I love
Liam.
those. Well,
Give us kind of like the plot of like how this all starts out. and
yeah,
stuff.
sure.
Mhm.
I'll darn toot and give you the plot of how this movie all goes. So this is like one of the first modern zombie movies.
Oh,
What?
You could say it's one
I'd
of the
pretty
most
much say it's the
important
first.
movies in pop
No,
culture
go ahead.
history.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
What? I don't know. But, alright. So, as Sydney said, this is one of the most important movies in pop culture history.
We would not have the last 20 years of anything if it
You
wasn't
would
for
not
this
even
movie.
have Walking Dead out there.
Yeah,
Especially
remember when you're skipping on Walking Dead seasons like I am?
Yeah,
You
remember
can
when
think
this
Night
is
of
all
the Living
really
Dead.
stupid?
Yeah, but this is just one of the first modern zombie movies, and it's really, really good one at that.
Mhm.
So,
It like every trope that exists in all of these zombie things since then began here.
Yep. This is.
It definitely isn't the earliest. There
No.
was one that came out, I want to say decades earlier.
White Zombie.
Yeah.
White Zombie starring Bela Lugosi,
Heck
of all
yes.
people.
With
That one's
incredible
that one's a
eyebrows.
good one. There's also
There's
A Walk
even more
with a
before
Zombie.
it.
Ooh, I
I
don't
Walk
remember
with a
that
Zombie.
There's
Yeah.
But
also
those were all like traditional Haitian
Mm.
voodoo type zombies.
Yes.
There's
exactly.
also there was another movie called I Eat Your Skin, which had the same one.
Oh, I've been looking
Before
for
68?
that movie.
Before 68.
Before 68.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright.
It's the more traditional zombie,
All right.
but the makeup design looks
So now that we've given you a
Very-
brief history of the zombie genre,
in like the most poorly constructed way possible.
Mhm.
I guess we start off with our first general impressions, maybe our stories of how the first time we watched this movie.
Mhm.
I
Oh.
guess.
I was also going to let them know that this also gave birth to a franchise because you had the Night of the Living Dead.
That got really
And
awesome
it-
for a few movies and then got really bad.
They
Yeah.
got really bad for like 3.
But then some of the remakes were actually pretty good.
I like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead was pretty good.
That's James
Yeah.
Gunn, right?
No,
No, that was
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder and his
His
Spartan
first
loving
and best movie.
Hey.
No, I agree.
No,
300.
Watchmen.
Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen.
Watchmen's way better than the Dawn of the Dead remake.
You're probably right.
I would agree.
Yeah.
You're
And-
probably right.
And Man of Steel.
No.
And we're moving on.
Literally no.
I will shoot
Well,
you.
we'll have an episode where we yell at Ron about
We
Man of
will.
Steel later on.
So our first general impressions, I'll start, is I watched this movie on, like, I want to say that it was like one of those horror hosts things. I don't remember who it was, but I do remember like somebody cutting in and like announcing throughout, like during the commercial breaks.
I'm wondering if it's the exact same thing I grew up on.
Oh, nice. But yeah, it was just like Saturday night at my grandma's house, and I was just like, ooh, this is dark and spooky looking. I'm gonna watch it, and it left an impact.
Was
That's
it
for
a
sure.
blonde woman singing "Up All Night"?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so it's Rhonda. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was on USA. She had these movies like every like weekend where she would do like an old horror movie like or Toxic Avenger, like all these kind of like
yeah.
after midnight kind of movies. And she would host it, and she would like talk before it and make popcorn and do all these like dinner and a movie things.
It was a really great introduction
Yeah.
to the movie. So moving on to Ron.
And surprisingly, that's kind of where it started for me too. Of course, like with horror movies, my mom cared for a few, but it was one of those things that I knew I wasn't supposed to watch, so I would watch it. And this is one of those movies I did watch on like USA with all the commercials and all that crap that you had to watch through. But it was great. And then of course, I've owned it on DVD. I don't own it on Blu-ray yet, so.
Nice.
But
well, this was like you know how in Shaun of the Dead Simon Pegg cares about the second album he ever bought. This was like the second horror movie I ever saw. Because
nice little
I was,
reference there.
yeah, nice little reference there. And it was like one of the first horror movies I ever watched was with my parents, and that was Alien. And I loved Alien.
Yes.
But like thing was like with my younger brother around, I couldn't watch any of the other ones, or like couldn't watch Alien as much as I wanted to. So like every time I got to watch a horror movie like Night of the Living Dead or Alien, it was like it was a special occasion. Or one day, like I was going through some of the movies I could watch, like greenlit by my parents, and this was one of them. And I was like, awesome! I'm gonna go have some ramen noodles and gonna go watch this. And I made a terrible mistake to eat the ramen noodles because I got grossed out, like one of the later scenes. But I think I was like 11 or 12. But this movie I absolutely love.
So, AKA just a couple years ago.
I also
just a couple of years ago.
I also have a personal story for this movie.
Oh yeah.
So I was oh sorry.
I've
was
been
gonna-
to the cemetery in
Really?
Pennsylvania.
Where is it at? Oh, it's in
yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is
Evans
in
City,
Yep.
Pennsylvania.
You been there?
I have.
That's so cool.
We looked for like. There's a really prominent tombstone that's like right next to where they like leave the wreath that I tried to look for, and we couldn't find it. So that was
That's
fun.
a shame. It probably
I
just
want-
isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a prop too that they added.
Oh, it could have been.
Well, I remember the first time I saw this movie. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I grew up in a small town that was like weirdly devoid of movies in general. Like you couldn't find anything that wasn't the latest crappy boner comedy or whatever, and you basically had to do all your movie shopping at the grocery store.
Oh no.
That's fun.
But I really, really wanted to watch this movie since the first time I heard about it. But you can't. It's actually really hard to find physical copies of it sometimes, especially back
It
then.
really is. Back
Yeah,
then.
well, because
Well, it's funny.
it
I was
is-
actually looking it up. It is in the public domain.
That's what I was gonna say. It's
And
public
it's,
domain.
and it's not in the public domain, but like say like the copyright ran out or something. It was one of those cases where like the studio thought the movie wasn't going to be worth it, and so they just neglected to fill out the paperwork.
Boy, were they wrong.
So it was always in the public domain. But that kind of goes into my story. I couldn't find this movie anywhere, and this was before streaming services or anything were really popular. So I basically had to go and download a torrent of it, and I remember being terrified, because I'm a stupid kid, and I'm thinking, what did I do? The FBI is going to come kicking down my door, and I was terrified. And then I find out a few months later that it's in the public domain anyway, so I'm like, it's fine. I was more scared of the consequences than the movie itself.
movie.
How dare you?
See, I actually was scared the first time I watched this because I watched it pretty young, and when you're like in the middle of the night watching this and you're a kid, and it's like even the commercials for some reason added to the atmosphere of like, ooh, this isn't something you're supposed to watch, and ooh, the atmosphere, and it's really hard to explain.
The
Late
scary
night cable just has never been the same. Since
Yeah,
My-
it really is that like pinnacle midnight cable movie.
Yeah, and I think like I said, not to go too far into the movie, but like the part with the kid,
Uh-huh.
that part freaked me out. Yeah, it freaked me out. Because like religion and kids, you put those in horror movies, man, they freak the shit out of me.
the thing that when I watched this, it was like in the middle of the day, and it was like either spring or summer, but it was like a super pleasant day. And when I get done watching like some movie with like an ending like this, and then it's just pleasant day. I'm like, everything's too calm. I don't know why it's too calm. This is bugging me.
Bad things
Coming
are
to
gonna
get you,
happen.
Liam.
They're coming
No,
to
it's
get
not
you.
so calm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fair warning. We're probably going to use that line like 1,000 times in this podcast.
Yes.
So
It's the best line in the whole movie.
I was
It
gonna say
is.
nothing
It's
else
what-
is for that
it's
quotable.
it's literally and even just in the horror genre, it's like it's one of those staples. It's like a great soundbite.
It's funny that like Jesse mentions is how like none of the lines are quotable. It's weird though because the writing's not bad.
I like a lot of Ben's lines.
Yeah, but like that's the kind of like that was John Romero's. I don't know if like this is how he made Night of the Living Dead, but all of his movies afterwards, like he didn't care at all about the structure like while they were filming. Like you can especially see it in Day of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
When it's where it like halfway through the movie it just turns into a bunch of random hijinks because he would just go and just film as much as he could, and then he'd fix it all in editing. So that's why a lot of the lines and delivery and everything can be a little stilted and weird.
I was gonna say, you said that like the writing for the most part was good. I wouldn't give a gold star to the acting.
Well, you could say that, but like it felt like
Well, Barbara
you-
was
you-
truly
you-
hysterical, and I felt her portrayal as a hysterical person.
yeah, but at the same time it felt forced and like stereotypy, you know?
The one where she's
like
telling the
how all
story-
people back then acted like crazy
Yeah.
in movies, you know?
When she's
But
telling
that
the
being-
story to him, that feels really overblown to be with her, like having her heads up here. It's like, oh,
Especially compared to like the rest of the performances in the movie. But in the end I kind of like it because even though this is like a modern day masterpiece, back then it was just a silly B movie, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Man,
got a
we
lot
got-
of
we
the
got-
same,
B-movie.
it's got that same feeling, huh?
Do we forget about Ben's strong hand? He had a pimp slap that bitch.
What a hero.
No, it was
What a hero.
full on punch.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh shit, she just got Ray Riced.
I don't know why. I don't know why I did the smack because now I'm gonna have to edit that.
You're good.
It's gonna go.
Because now I'm like situated where I could see the sound recording,
Did you
and
just see a spike?
every time Liam talks, I see it go to the right. Now I'm kidding.
But but like I was saying before, I actually really like it because the writing's not great and the acting isn't great, but they fit together really well. It's like when you watch a John Waters movie. None of the actors, especially in his earlier movies, none of the actors and actresses in those movies are particularly good, but they're perfect for delivering the lines, you know?
This is the kind of movie where it's like it's super dated, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Exactly. It feels so warm and cozy watching the movie.
It's like horror comfort food.
You
So
know,
should we
you
get
know,
into
you
this?
know
We
what
should.
else
We
is
should definitely
warm
get
and
into this.
fuzzy?
What?
The young couple later on in this movie.
I was good. Oh.
We'll talk about
They
that.
get it. They get it
Yeah.
pretty
They,
bad.
he's not wrong. So the movie begins with credits, as most movies are wont to do, and we
Especially
follow
back
it.
then.
we
Yeah.
follow a car driving along like a country road out in the middle of nowhere, and we pull into a cemetery, and we're introduced to two characters,
Yeah.
Barbara
and Johnny.
and Johnny, and Johnny's kind of a dick. As we see, he's
Yeah.
he's bitching the whole way through. He's like, I
He
don't
might
see
also
why
be
we
my
have to come
favorite
up
character
here.
in the movie.
Oh, he pissed me off. So I'm pretty excited what happens to him.
Like you're immediately introduced to their dynamic as a brother and sister, and you tell that like he's always like giving her shit or like complaining about something, and she's so used to it she barely argues with him
She
anymore.
barely even notices at this
Yeah.
point.
Well, that
She's
and
so
like
used
you could definitely tell like she has some sort of like, or he has some sort of like hold over her, like he he messes around with her, and she's all like, "Stop it, Johnny, stop it!"
Now, is this
like-
with the driver gloves on or off?
Oh my gosh!
On.
Oh, so we're
Oh,
gonna
okay.
bring up Johnny's
I
driver
want
gloves.
to bring up his gloves because he has these like super like dainty racing gloves. What it looks like.
Those-
and
he
he's all
was-
really
he
those
was-
were the
gloves.
those were
he
the
was-
style back then. That's why they call it a glove box.
I feel
I
most
argue they're
people
the
didn't
style now.
wear gloves when they drove.
He was
I
OJ
would.
before OJ.
They're the style now.
I wish I
But-
had driving gloves
I
for driving my
You can
shitty
get 'em.
soccer mom van.
I wanted to say something about the two of them. Oh, it's clear that this isn't the first time they've had this argument. So they've come to the cemetery to put a wreath on their father's grave, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fathers, yes.
Yes.
And so they're doing this, and it's very little happens in the dialogue here. Like you
yeah.
get just a bit of characterization, mostly from him, not from her. She's just kind of like
She's kind of
about
quiet
everything.
and doesn't really say anything too significant.
And then there is a lightning strike, which is clearly some dude with a flashlight, like clicking it on and on.
Just waving their arms.
There's a storm brewing. And I just realized that storm never actually gets there. Like there's
No.
lightning, but then there's nothing else. There's no
Nope,
wind.
there's nothing.
There's no rain.
I was
The
really
lightning
wanting to
stops
see
almost
rain.
immediately too.
and
Which actually, now that you say that, I don't know if it's supposed to be lightning.
what else would it be?
Maybe artillery or something. I know we're not quite at.
Wait, what?
What?
I know we're not quite at things are terrible yet, but they start rounding up the army.
That would be kind of awesome if that's what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to. You would have to listen to the sound effect. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
offhand.
I don't remember it either. But
Regardless,
Otherwise, don't you think Johnny and Barbara would start like talking about it?
they're not the brightest bulbs in the box.
That's
No.
true, but
No.
bulbs nonetheless.
So-
you know.
They're in a cemetery, and it's clear that Barbara is getting kind of spooked, and she's not super comfortable here. And Johnny picks up on that, and he's all like, "Oh, you're not scared, are you?" And she's all like, "Stop it, Johnny!" And then he does the whole they're coming to get you, Barbara line, and he starts teasing her. He's like, "There's one of them now. He's coming for you." And
and he
she's all
points
like,
at this random guy walking around.
and it's just this dude just chilling in the cemetery, just walking along, doing his thing, like a 6 foot tall motherfucker, though. But besides that,
Yeah.
he
Man in
seems
black.
normal. And so, like, Johnny playfully, like, runs off and be like, "Oh, they're coming!" And then she, like, tries to just, like, casually walk by and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my brother's a weirdo." And
Sorry, my
then,
brother's dick.
surprise zombie attack with the big 6 foot tall lughead just, like, grabbing her by the shoulders and just going, "Rah!"
Like a 6 foot tall person in a black suit shaking a person around in a graveyard. Is this Phantasm? Is this the tall man during his
Oh.
party years?
I would love that so much. Boy.
Boy, I'm
with his-
Barbara. My bad.
With his little Jawas running along. So yeah, he's attacking her, and then Johnny looks over and is all like, "Oh hey, get off my sister, bruh." And so they start tussling, and he loses pretty immediately. Like,
Oh,
they
he
both-
throws him. He throws him
both-
down hard.
Well, they both kind of collapse on the ground, and then he just happened to like hit a tombstone on the way
Yeah,
down.
hit a tombstone.
And
So
it's
he's
like,
out.
I do like the sound effect because it makes me feel it almost like the thump, and I was
Crunch.
like, ooh, that's not a good sound.
That's not something you get up from.
No, you'll be fine. Oh, it is something you get up from.
Well,
Yeah, but pun intended. But
So Barbara runs off with the car and like locks all the doors, and it chases after her. And she doesn't have the keys. And the interesting thing about this zombie is he picks up a brick and he tries to like smash it through the window. So and that
which
becomes
is
a theme
something. Which
later.
is actually something you see a lot. Like, it's something that he does that not a lot of other zombie like makers do. Is
Yeah.
his tend to have a little bit of intelligence in him.
Well, I think he kind of had to set that process up. That like, I mean, he didn't think, hey, I'm gonna just make him brain dead.
It is a thing where it's like we're treating this from a lens of the modern day, whereas like in his writing process, none of this existed yet. So he
Yeah.
was just like, why wouldn't it pick up a
Like
brick and smash through the window?
the zombies, like they're called. Well, I don't know if they actually ever call them zombies in the
They
movie.
call them
They
ghouls.
call them ghouls.
Ghouls, that's right. But the way they behave is actually closer to a movie like The Crazies or something.
Well, also, it does make sense when you consider, like, the original of the Dead trilogy with Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, and Dawn of the Dead. Whereas in each one, you see, like, the zombies kind of becoming more and more human, which culminates in Day of the Dead with, what's his name, Buddy or something?
Yeah,
Bud?
Buddy.
Yeah.
But-
And it was like when it comes to
And at the
like,
same time, you
any
see
of
the humans
other-
get more and more animalistic.
Yeah, and it's like when it comes to any of like the other zombie franchises, this one is still my favorite. Unless we're including video games, in that case Resident Evil pops in there. But it's like the whole reason that the zombies are getting smarter makes it like more scary, because like the humans just keep underestimating.
Because
them.
one of the things that always happens in modern zombie fiction that I hate is all the crazies going, it's the next step in human evolution.
They do
Where,
have that a
like-
lot in modern movies where they're like, oh, this is the natural process, man.
Then they never, I don't think they ever really come out and say it in the Dead trilogy, but it actually kind of feels like it in a way.
Uh-huh.
It's just interesting.
I'm still waiting for 28 months later. By the way, is that ever gonna happen? Nope.
Probably not.
Ah.
28 years
It's
later.
gonna come out 28 years later.
Oh. See, I didn't.
28 centuries later.
I'm sure we'll talk. I'm sure we'll talk about these movies eventually, but I like both of them, even
Oh, really?
weeks.
They're good.
So
Oh my god, I saw that cat and I was like, what the fuck is that?
zombie cat.
It's a zombie cat.
So,
So-
sorry, my cat just walked past and spooked.
So the zombie crashes through the window, and then Barbara remembers that she can like move the car, and she pulls off the brake and starts rolling down the hill. She doesn't do a very good job because she backs
No.
into a tree immediately, and
Only
so she has
almost
to book
immediately.
it. She has to book it and run. And
You think it's because they said women drivers are terrible?
I didn't want to say it, but
Well, it is the 60s.
it is the 60s.
It is.
So she starts running away, and I really kind of like the shot of her. It's a long shot of her like running towards the camera because the whole time you're
Yeah.
expecting, oh, he's just gonna like tear out of those woods because he's not walking after her. He's kind of doing this weird like. It's very Frankenstein.
He's doing a zombie shuffle.
Yeah, so he's not slow as like you would expect. So there is kind of an immediate danger
He's not
here.
just lumbering. He's like actually chasing her.
So she makes her way to what she thinks is an abandoned house and like closes off the door and makes her way in there and spends a good long time here before anything happens.
it
Like
is.
3 solid minutes of her just like slowly creeping
Just
through the
walking
house. And
around
I'm
and
not saying
panting.
you wouldn't creep through a house like to make sure every corner is safe, but it's the pacing is a little slow.
Well, I think I think she wasn't sure if someone was there, so she was kind of. You okay?
Are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Better,
My
actually.
microphone. Cat knocked over my microphone. So
Is
Damn
that
cats, I swear.
like? Did the cat meow?
yeah,
Okay, cool. That I was wanting to make sure I wasn't losing my mind hearing that noise. I was like,
I had to pick her up, and she kind of gave this pathetic little wheezy meow.
yeah, that's what I heard.
But I was just saying that she didn't know if somebody was in the house,
Right.
So I think she was just kind of treading lightly, you know.
She
do
does
wanna
walk
make-
through. I think because she sees that corpse upstairs. I think
That's
she
at the very
assumed-
end of like 2 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah,
I want to say something before that happens though. Is there's like a fake out jump scare
Yes.
with like
Oh my god.
like the taxidermied animal heads. There's
Yes.
like this big orchestra sting, and it's really weird because she doesn't seem startled by it. Usually when they're like fake outs, the characters themselves are startled, but in this it was like, oh, that was for you, audience.
But at the same time, it wouldn't make sense for her to be scared of it, you know, because she'd see it right away, you know.
Uh-huh. So yes, she eventually climbs up the stairs and immediately, and this is one of my favorite shots in the movie where it just like zooms in on the corpse, and that's a good makeup effect for the 60s, I think.
yeah.
With it's just
It
like
looks really good.
And so she's immediately like, nope, going back down. And does anything important happen before what's his name shows up?
Ben.
She runs around locking the doors and like tries to check and see if the zombie's out there, and yeah, he still is. Destroying laundry poles, which, fun fact, are zombies' mortal enemies.
They are. They're
Yes.
very dangerous. They're like
Yes.
those clotheslines. They have a very hard time getting past them because they keep just bumping into them.
You know why The Walking Dead is lasting like how many 8 seasons now? It's because no one pulls up laundry poles to defeat the zombies.
Just
That
But
is so
Negan doesn't
true.
do that.
Yeah.
That's so fucking
Build a
true.
fence.
Because these
Also, bikes. How come no one in zombies movies uses bikes? They're always complaining
Bicycles?
about I don't have enough cash for my car.
You're right.
But-
Just like you
Oh,
could just
like
easily
You
get
can
rid of
pedal.
them.
Yeah, you can
Oh,
pedal
Wor-
right past them.
World War Z.
You can run circles around them.
World War Z, like the army was using bicycles.
That's because World War
Okay.
Z is awesome. If we're talking
Is
about the
it?
book,
Oh yeah, we're talking about the movie.
okay.
Yeah,
we're talking about the book now. The book is awesome.
The only
Okay.
the only like end of the world apocalypse thing I've ever seen that actually made sense with that was Turbo Kid, where there's no more gas, so everyone just.
God,
rides
I love
bikes.
Turbo Kids so much. Can we talk about that sometime?
Next week's episode, Turbo Kid.
Hell yeah,
I
yeah.
like
I'm
Turbo
fine,
Kid.
man.
I'm not actually picking Turbo Kid.
I hate you, Jesse. No.
Turbo
So
Kid's great though.
Turbo Kid.
we're introduced then to who I would call our main character, because even though
Yes.
we've been following Barbara for the first 10 minutes, she's not really
She's
useful.
pretty
Yeah.
worthless.
No,
yeah,
no,
she's
after-
the damsel in distress in a way.
After Johnny, her mind went elsewhere.
Usually, damsels in the distress at least
after-
talk though, and not just like flop over on the couch. Yeah, she tries to go outside, and there's like some zombies. Figure shows up and beats the shit out of zombies, and like hustles her into the room and closes the door behind him, and is like, "Oh, we got to lock this place up. Is there any like?" Is there any way to lock this up? Is there anyone else here? And she's just like, I don't word.
I don't. Yeah, it was like,
Well,
hey,
that
doesn't say anything, she
Can you
just
give me
stands there
the
and looks
gas
sad.
pump or something like that? Yeah.
And it's like, I understand that there's, like, she's traumatized.
She's in shock.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I think he even says that like,
Yeah.
oh, she's in shock or something.
Yeah.
But man, is she useless
She
throughout
truly
the
is.
rest of this movie.
Well, yeah,
Like,
like I mean, even when
It's
she
great. It's great all the way up to a point, and then it just gets annoying. Honestly,
really
a lot
does.
of times, like I remember when I was rewatching it, I actually kind of kept forgetting she was there.
yeah, she's definitely just kind of background noise.
See, it sucked when it was like, see, I had the same problem as Sydney. It was like, forgot she was there, and then the movie like reminds you, oh hey, she's there, and it's like, okay, can we go back to like Ben and stuff? And it's like, nope, we're gonna do some more screen time with Barbara, and I'm like, all right, that's fine.
So this character Ben, he's come in and he clearly handles himself better than she does.
I
and
love Ben so
he-
much.
He's immediately starting to be like, okay, we need to lock this place up. We need to make sure everything's secure. And he's like giving orders, and she's just like a blank wall, having none of it. And he gets like frustrated with her and starts doing it himself. And she eventually is all like, "Oh, I found a handful of like 2 pieces of wood. I did my part."
Well, and you almost forgot like when she gets hysterical. The thing is, like, she doesn't know, or I don't know if she wants to believe it or what, but she doesn't think Johnny's dead. She's saying we need to go help him. We need, he's out there.
yeah.
He's out there. We need to help him.
That happens
And-
later, but we could talk about it now.
Oh,
where
okay.
She is just like, "Oh, we gotta go out there." He's like, "Oh, no, he's."
I
very
thought
dead.
I
My
thought that's
friend."
like I thought. Never mind.
I think
Okay.
it's about halfway through the movie.
Really?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
after
Holy
you
shit.
realize the
It-
rest
it
of
was
the
after
character.
She really,
boarded
she
up.
really
It's
is
like 10
useless,
minutes before,
isn't
yeah,
she?
it's like 10 minutes before she talks to him.
Yeah.
He starts
It's like-
breaking tables and
Shables.
and chairs.
What's a
And
folding
I was,
table?
I was having like
when you
18
eat on a
music
chair.
just playing in the background when watching this, like
Just hammer and nailing things and boarding up all the windows and doors and
And he's definitely like survival guy. Like he's he's breaking the legs off tables to board up the windows.
And this-
know,
and this is
why
like
you
the 60s.
always get someone
Yeah.
in a
so in
sweater
the
to help
60s
you.
they didn't have like shitty plywood tables and chairs. They had like
Yeah, this
big
is like a
oak
solid
shit.
oak.
Did you ever
100-year-old
try?
table?
Have you ever tried moving those?
Yes,
I
they're
hate
heavy.
them
Yes.
so much.
Oh god!
He doesn't
when
need
I
that
was working-
crowbar. He just needs one
When I
of
was
those
working
table
as a
legs.
janitor at the school, I did nothing but move antique teaching desks. You know how heavy
Uh-oh.
those are?
no!
Oh, they're
Now, I was
terrible.
gonna- I was going to mention something about the like at the time period for this would like it would be just a few years after civil rights. But then I'm thinking, it's Pennsylvania, so they really didn't have much of an issue up there.
Sorry, Pennsylvania.
Sorry, no, they're
I
good.
know, I'm
they're
kidding.
good.
Oh,
They moved on quicker than the South. Sorry, South.
Or
taken.
did they move on quicker, judging by the end of this movie? Bum, bum.
Oh yeah, that is
Yeah.
true. Bum bum bum. That is true.
So,
Which it's
Pisses
funny
me
because
off.
of course, I don't think we actually brought it up. Ben is a black man,
Oh yeah.
which historically, I mean, it is kind of historical. It's the first horror movie with an African American male lead.
Lead,
at
yeah.
least the first like big popular one.
Yes,
I think it might
yes,
be the
of
first
course.
one, but I don't want to like commit to that.
No, I've
It-
seen
it's-
lots of horror movies where like the main character has a black kind of racist sidekick,
This is the
But
first time where it's like the main hero.
and he's like
Yes.
a real person.
Because
Sid-
most
Sidney
movies.
Poitier never did horror, did he?
I wish he did.
That would be
I don't
Hey,
think
awesome.
so.
call me
Such
Mr. Tibbs.
He's such a good
But-
actor.
But it is
Like
also
most
interesting
movies
to
would
mention, though, that sorry, you go ahead.
No, my bad. I was gonna say how like most movies at that time would go for Barbara as like the main character.
Yes,
For,
pretty
like,
blonde white
everything.
woman.
Yeah.
But like actually, it is pretty interesting because I don't know if this is true or if this is just something he was saying in retrospect. But apparently, that wasn't really his intention to make something that was like groundbreaking and satirical. You know,
Usually with
he
Okay, I
was
don't
just
wanna-
he was just like they did the interviews and he was the only one who actually did the part right, at least right for him.
I don't want to say usually, but it seems like with a lot of groundbreaking movies, they aren't meant to be groundbreaking when they're made. Like these things just sort of happen organically. You can't force it a lot of
You
the
can't force
times.
it. And otherwise, you get the Ghostbusters remake.
Oh,
We're getting political up in here.
No, we're not. We're
Tickets.
talking about Ghostbusters. There's nothing political about freaking Ghostbusters.
Well, tell that to half the population.
I was gonna say, tell that to everybody.
Tell that
Yeah.
to
Tell that
Sony
to the fake controversy.
Entertainment.
Tell that to the fake controversy Sony conjured up to make their shitty movie sell.
Ooh, we're
better.
getting hot takes.
Exactly.
Ooh.
No,
Anyway.
he's
Wow,
right.
no,
Preach.
No, these aren't hot takes. That movie came out in 2016. These aren't hot takes.
So
Most
back
people
to
forgot about the
Ghostbusters.
movie by now.
Back to Ghostbusters.
Ben is all like, "Man, y'all suck. I'm gonna catch this ghost." But I
Barbie,
think
you just sit there.
at this point, do they
Ben
get
says, "That's a big Twinkie."
that's a big movie. So, do they get the radio working at this point?
Or
Yeah.
he's trying. Well,
He actually gets the radio working almost right away, and like, while he's
Yeah.
working, you can hear what's going
And
on in the background.
Immediately, you learn that like this isn't localized. This
Yeah,
is
this
like
is-
happening everywhere
it's
around
a mess.
America, and they're like, we don't know. And I love this is probably my favorite horror part of the movie, to just hear about what's going on around the world and how it's like
the best part.
like, we don't know what's going on, everybody. You need to stay inside. If the stranger approaches you, you need to like not approach them and all that. It's like what would really happen in the
Jesse,
60s if
have
something
you heard
like
of
this.
a movie called Pontypool?
Yes, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, because I don't know if Liam or Ron's heard of it, but it's based. That's
I
the whole
haven't.
premise. It's
Yeah.
the zombie apocalypse happening from the point of view at the guy at the radio
I
station.
love
That
story.
sounds so
Yeah,
cool.
I
Well,
love
yeah,
storytelling like that.
It's
The
kind of
movie's
like
great.
it kind of like when you were just talking about it. It kind of reminds me of the whole World of Wars.
Yeah, it's like
Orson
that, but with
Welles.
zombies.
Yeah.
It's just like we will get you more information as we know
And
it,
those
but we don't
people,
want to
like,
give you misinformation.
there was like hysteria that happened
Uh-huh.
because people actually thought we were being invaded.
We'll talk about that one day.
Yes.
Because I did a whole report on that.
Okay, cool.
But
On
yes,
what?
like I said, War of the
Sorry,
Worlds.
I missed that conversation. Was it?
War
He
of
said
the
it was
Worlds.
kind of like War of the Worlds, and how it's that sort of radio broadcast treating it as if it's real, and of course the movie's treating it as if it's real, but that's
Real.
just the feeling
Yeah.
that you get.
yeah.
There is one thing I did like about the whole broadcast.
What?
I felt like they kind of cheapened it when they explain what they believe caused it.
I
with
do agree.
Venus's.
And watching the movie
Yeah.
again, every
I
time
forgot
I watch
about
this
that
movie,
part,
I
too.
forget that they explain it.
Yeah.
Every time.
I do. It is kind of
It's
annoying
like,
that they explain it. But I think
radiation
it's,
from Venus.
Well, I think that's such a. That's what I mean.
fuck
It's
does
a
that
B
mean?
movie. That's such a B movie premise.
It really
Yeah.
is.
But it's also really interesting how, like, almost immediately it goes from that. Whereas in the other movies, like the later on in the trilogy, they
Mm-hmm.
don't even mention it. They just, zombies are back.
I always
Well,
like
I
when there's
just-
no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
That was
Somebody says in
That would
not
be a
the Romero
great thing.
Dead trilogy.
That
That
would be
was
so fucking good.
that was
Oh.
that other Living Dead, like Return.
Yeah,
of the
Return of the
and
Living
stuff.
Dead. Yeah.
No.
We'll see when we get to Dawn of the Dead. I'm
No,
pretty sure somebody says that.
it is Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it is.
Return of the Living Dead.
I think it
was,
is Dawn of the Dead.
Return of the Living Dead was when they actually captured one of the zombies from
We
Night of the Living
have
Dead.
to do Return
And
of the Living Dead one
it's,
day.
We will.
It's like one of my favorite
That's a
zombie
staple.
movies.
I love that one.
Anyway, but like, but it's weird how it goes from like fun, goofy sci-fi B movie to almost immediately like, no, it's a virus, it's a disease.
And one thing I also really like about this, watching it nowadays, is it's kind of funny when you're thinking about this in the 60s, like their only source of news was the radio or the TV. They had no other way to understand what was going on. Whereas nowadays, it'd be like, oh shit, let me check Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh shit, the zombie apocalypse. Somebody tells me there's one on Fifth Avenue. We'll avoid that place. Like, you know immediately
There's a new app.
everything.
There's an app to track all the zombies.
Oh, I need to make that movie. Zombie tracker.
Oh, we also need to say that when Ben finds the radio, he also finds the hunting rifle.
The hunting rifle. Ooh, he does.
Yeah.
Yes.
we watch him
also
load
a pair
it.
of shoes. So
Oh,
it's one of the few character
for-
moments Ben has.
Yeah.
He finds shoes, tries to give it to her, but then later she isn't wearing them, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They probably weren't the right size. So
Oh.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well,
Well,
he-
you know,
he had-
women in shoes.
He had good
They,
intentions.
they always
Misogynist.
fall off.
No, my back's fine. I don't need a massage.
So,
So-
Well, it's like as soon
So should
as soon
we
as
should we
he
move
turn-
on to that Ben and Barbara discover the farm cellar, or do we want to talk about the slaps?
well, they also he tries to move the bodies out because like two zombies got in at some point. He kills them
Oh,
and
yeah,
drags
that's
them
right.
out and sets them on fire. And that's how he learns that zombies are like fire bad.
Well, he
So-
actually learns that a lot earlier.
Oh,
Like,
you're right. He just
in
knows
backstory
this.
he gives, so
Yeah,
he just
yeah.
knows it already.
Yeah. Okay. So then they talk and give each other their backstories before they find out the basement stuff.
Which,
Whereas,
hold on, I don't mean to interrupt you again, but that's another thing. You can't really like. I don't want to say you can't do that, but now you don't have that instant out since nobody smokes anymore. Nobody carries lighters and matches.
Nobody
'Cause,
has
like,
lighters.
Was it in a modern movie that'd actually be a plot point of we got to find a lighter or a match, whereas in this movie everyone's just got a matchbook on them.
Oh,
Well,
I'm gonna
I mean,
be
it's-
so mad. It's like, do you smoke? No, I only vape. Well,
Damn
damn,
it.
we need a lighter.
Well, like just kind of like the old horror movies where they cut the phone cords. They're like, well, I guess I got my cell now.
What's a
like,
phone cord?
What's a phone? Yeah. Holy shit, the
Land-
power went out. Guess what? My cell
Land-
phone's still good.
Well, I completely
Landline?
forgot for the younger listeners. See, children, a radio was a device where we where we listened to stations.
You had to turn the dial to get to the right station, otherwise there'd just be
See,
static.
You can't
Jesse,
go to
Jesse,
Pandora
you're like
where
2
you
years
type in.
older than me.
I know.
And Liam's even younger, and he's trying to explain.
Cindy, you're 1 year older than me.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
And we're not gonna. We're gonna go past my age.
yeah. So Ben's backstory is that like he was off just getting some gas, or like he was driving by a gas station, and then there was like this overturned truck or something.
He
And
the
then-
tanker trunk just drives
Oh,
right
yeah.
by.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
And then everything explodes, and then like he was surrounded by zombies, so he had to like put the pedal to the metal and ran over him, and they didn't even move. And he's got a bit of trauma from this, where he's just like, I just ran over human beings. Oh my god! And it's like, Ben, it's okay. There's zombies, but you don't know that yet. So,
You don't.
Yeah.
and then
They just think they're infected humans.
And then we spend like 2 minutes on Barbara telling us what we already know.
Yes.
This is a scene that would not happen in a modern
No,
movie where she's
e-
like,
e-
hey, audience,
just
that thing that happened
horrendously
in the beginning of the movie.
Even Ben was getting tired of hearing.
He
her.
does.
Yeah.
And also, she says things that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she says, like, oh, I tried to explain to him that it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Johnny's such a dick. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
Well, he was about to.
And he's like, I screamed. I said, Johnny, help me. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Stop lying. Why are you always lying?
Damn, bitch. No, I'm joking. All right, so now
Now basement.
basement cellar.
There's zombies, but then people rush up from the basement and they're like, you were there the whole time? And then asshole
Didn't
McGee.
you hear her screaming? Didn't you hear her?
What's his name?
I like to
Cooper.
call him
Cooper.
I like to
Wait,
call him
Harry and Helen Cooper.
Harry is such an unnecessary dick in this movie, which is the beginning of the trope of every zombie movie having that one
Well, yeah, of
unnecessary
course,
dick
he's
who
really
ruins
reminiscent
everything.
of the father from The Void.
He is. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sort
well,
of.
And I feel like
The guy from The Void was more effectual than this
I feel
guy.
like Harry is one of those people because I think he is a product of his time. Like during that time, it was like the man who runs things, the man who, like
sure.
if I say it this way,
Plus,
I
it's
say
his
it,
house.
It's no, it's
No,
not.
it's not.
They say that they
No.
just found this place too.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they found it. Yeah.
And-
I must have missed that. I must. have
You're so
misread
right
something.
because that becomes
Yeah.
the thing where he's like trying to take control, but
Yeah.
he's so obviously out of his stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Ben
Like
starts.
there's no reasoning with him.
Ben starts like, well, you heard a woman screaming. You know they don't sound like that. They don't make any noise. And he was like, how are we supposed to know? Fuck you.
Which
Yeah.
I actually really like their reveal because I feel like again in most movies they'd go down to the basement and you get a jump scare of them going, no, don't shoot. Whereas in this one they literally just show up out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, we were there the whole time.
Yep.
We just didn't care.
So we have Harry and Helen Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
and along with their daughter who is sick or
I'm sure she'll
something.
be fine.
She'll be fine.
Oh,
Her name's
yeah.
Karen, and she's down in the cellar also. And then we also get Tom and Judy, the
Tom and
teenage
Judy.
couple.
Gotcha.
So we got more
have our
characters.
Yeah.
We
I
got
want-
Get the,
I want to go
Yeah.
back for a minute to
We
just
got
talk
the
about Harry
buffet.
for a second.
Okay.
And say how like. For real though, talking about tropes, every single zombie movie has this guy who's all like, "I'm not
Oh, yeah.
going to listen to you. I'm going to
Just
do
a-
what I
just a
want to do and get us all
cantankerous
killed."
jerk.
and honestly, you're just waiting for that fucker to die too.
Every
Every-
single movie.
every single book. Another dumb thing I wanted to talk about.
we even
with
had it in
Harry.
Muckman.
Yeah, they did. It was the entire crew. But
What are you gonna say?
you know how he has like a bruise on like the top of his head.
Uh-huh.
I always think of like this one old SNL skit about Head Wound Harry.
Oh god, I love
And,
that
like,
massive head wound. Harry.
Yeah, massive head wound Harry. As soon as I saw the bruise on his head, I was like, head wound Harry.
So I haven't heard of this, but it sounds
You'll love it.
hilarious.
Oh,
The title.
it's Dana Carvey's character, and
Dana Carvey.
like there's a part like where he's laying down on a couch because he's woozy. He's like, I'm losing blood or whatever, and then the dog's like eating his head, and he's trying not to
It's like,
laugh.
wow, who's the friendly dog, right? And everyone's like barfing and like trying to get out of the party.
Yeah.
But
So for the next, I'd say
Sorry, people.
For the next, I'd say 20 minutes, Ben and Harry have the same conversation about 5 times where they're like, we should go to the basement. It's defendable down there. And Ben's
Yeah.
like, no,
No,
we
the
shouldn't because we
basement's a
have no
death
way to
trap.
get
Get
out
out.
if we go
Which,
there.
and, like-
which
Ben
Ben
is
is
like,
completely
oh, we
right.
should go
Never
into
go
the
upstairs
basement.
and never go downstairs.
Exactly, and like as the audience watching this movie, if you had common sense, you'd be like, Ben is right. But of course, has that alpha personality
I don't
where he's
know.
like,
It's
like
it's
alpha
my
weasel
way. It's
persona. Yeah.
He's like, it's my way or the highway.
Here's
kinda
why
thing.
I don't get this. This isn't an either or scenario. You
Yes.
can like be on the first level, so you have the line of sight, and then if anything does break through, you're like, okay, run to the basement.
Jesse, this
We're
is the
faster
sense
than
of
they
are.
pride.
Well,
This is
I
pride
love
we're
it. I love
talking
it
about.
because that's what Ben says too, where he's like, if you want to go to the basement, I don't give a shit. Don't
Yeah.
stay up here.
But
And-
if you lock up the basement, then I kind of give a shit because I want a place to like withdraw.
Well, that and I kind of like maybe it just dawned on me. Maybe Harry felt that way, like why he needed the basement was because his daughter at the time was immobile. Like she was sick. She can't walk. She's pretty much passed out, and
So they can't
So
move
so
her.
they can't run. So even if they were up on the first floor, barricading the door probably sound like a better option than like trying to carry their daughter and run away with her and stuff if the zombies overtake the
Which
house.
that is actually one upside to the basement because there's only one entrance.
Yeah.
That means there's only one exit too.
Yep. So they eventually do cave in and start helping fortifying everything, and then we kind of have a transitional fade to show that like everything's pretty sealed, pretty good. And they eventually get a TV, prop it up on a few chairs to get the reports proper of what's going on. And since they have gone to the radio, like the world at large has gotten developments on this sort of thing where it's like, okay, we now know that the assailants are eating the flesh of the people they kill, and they're calling them like roving bands of murderers and stuff. And it's very, I just really love the presentation of all this.
They even call them like what assassins too.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really-
that's
it's
so
definitely-
60s.
Yeah, it's so antiquated, but it works really well.
It creates this like really amazing sense of dread to know that this is happening everywhere, and like this we're watching one story of thousands that are happening this night, and that's just very eerie to me.
I really love like the news,
As-
the
as a-
news scenes in these.
As a kid, it captures your imagination so well.
Very
And-
much so.
And I love the Anchorman because you can tell he's like, oh, I'm a proper 60s fucking Anchorman. I don't break for anything. But you can, every now and again, you can tell that like he's a little like, wow, this is really weird and bad.
So I know this was
I was-
around the time of the. I know it wasn't quite at the start of the Vietnam War, but it was around that time.
Like, I'm imagining Walter Cronkite giving this broadcast and being like the steady, like, the kind of news anchors they want to make you feel safe. It's like, I'm a voice
Yes.
of reason, listen to me, stay calm, do what we tell you, and we'll make it through this.
Yeah.
And whereas now that is not what
I,
the news
for
would
one,
do.
welcome
No,
our
no.
new insect overlords.
Now the news would be all like,
CNN
oh my
or
god.
Fox.
The
Let's
news
see
would be
what-
like, oh,
Let's see
it's,
what's
I'm not gonna
tweeting
finish
about
that
this.
joke.
You know what's funny? The closest like news station that has like absolute calm voice that like I've listened to is BBC.
Uh-huh.
Like CNN and
Well,
Fox.
yeah, 'cause they're
both.
British.
Yeah, they like CNN and Fox both freak me out. I'm like, all right, let's see what the people overseas have to say.
Oh look, it's World War III again.
So watching.
Oh no, I was gonna say I think this is about the time also after all that was said and done that they find the TV and the broadcast.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Oh, okay.
And then once they find the TV, like eventually during the broadcast, they say it's like, oh, they're setting up like designated safe zones where there's like the National Guard and like there are like hospitals set up, and so we're ready to take people who are injured and blah blah blah. And so they're like, oh shit, okay, we can't just sit in this house anymore. We need to like get to one of these safe zones so
Yes.
we're like could be protected.
Sounds
They're-
familiar, right? Walking Dead people out there. Rip
you,
off.
You know what's weird?
What?
So my grandparents, when it was like, we're recording this after Thanksgiving, obviously, but
After the Great Thanksgiving Zombie Massacre.
after Great Thanksgiving. But the area that like my grandparents live in is like Willard, and like we were actually talking about this movie because like
Excuse
you know
me?
my step
Willard?
grandpa, yeah,
Like the movie Willard, or is that like a place near there?
place.
near.
Okay,
there.
I thought you were comparing your grandparents to Willard, and I was like,
No,
The guy who talks to rats.
It's just the safe zone they were talking about was Willard as well.
Oh, I
like
see,
they
I
were
see.
wanting to get to Willard, and it was like oddly enough that's like one of the conversations me and my step grandpa were talking about was like how like he always saw like all these young couples like barfing when he went to go see like the 1968 Night of the Living Dead,
As they should.
as they should.
Because
Very good.
So they're like, okay, so we need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then they argue for a long time. And
about a lot of
they,
the same stuff.
and then eventually they come to the realization, it's like, okay, we have to give this a try. It's like, okay, who knows how to work a gas pump? Because apparently that's a rare skill. And
Okay, so, well, that's the thing though. Is first off, back then, people actually pumped gas for you. You know,
but isn't it just a crank?
Well,
it's actually
no.
different. It's a private gas pump for one
Yeah.
on a farm,
Uh-huh.
and those
Mainly-
do work much different.
And-
Well,
and
mainly
there's also
even
a
today.
lock, so
there's
they
a
were
lock.
trying to find the
that
keys
was the
to
main
it.
thing. Like once they found the lock, it was able to pump because like mainly, like like the style where you like flip up the lever and stuff. That's kind of like this. You flip it up and a pump will turn on to pump the gas from your underground whatever well
Alright.
into your tank.
So
Well,
they,
it's
they
funny
got-
that you mentioned that he doesn't know how to use it,
Yeah.
but you know,
'Cause
for
that
the
comes up
longest
later.
time, and for the longest time in Oregon, you weren't allowed to pump your own gas. And I
What is that?
It was just like a weird, I guess, a union
Sorry,
law
I
or
was young.
something,
No, I didn't. Even
or it
know
was
that.
like
Oh, because they had the gas attendants. They were probably union people.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and after a while though, they
Damn.
kind of
No, I'm
disbarred
just
that.
joking.
I think they disbarred that like last year. Like that's been going on in
That
Oregon
is
for like
so
forever.
weird.
Really?
Well, exactly. But then like that year after they kind of repealed that law,
Mm-hmm.
you just got a flood of pictures on the internet of people who didn't know how to pump their own gas.
What's
Oh,
going
that's
on?
hilarious. Like,
I'm
yeah.
trying to shoot it in like a hose.
So it's like one of those
Where's
weird
the
things
tank?
that like
Overarching.
you take it for granted, but then you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like no, it actually does make sense.
So they decide it's like, okay, we have a truck and we know it runs. So you, Harry, you're gonna make some Molotov cocktails and it's gonna be sweet. And then me and the teen guy, we're gonna go and we're gonna get some gas. And
He reminds me a lot like a red shirt in Star Trek.
he
Yeah.
is.
Just original
Yeah, he
series.
literally-
So the plan is they're gonna like light the fires with the cocktail so they could get to the truck and then drive over and just pump really quick, drive back, get everybody and go. Doesn't work. They get out
Then
to
the
the
movie would be over.
I will say he really should have tried to like hit the zombies with those cocktails because he doesn't even try. Like one zombie gets lit on fire and I'm like, come on, dude, haven't you played Left 4 Dead? You gotta make those count.
I don't think he did.
No, I don't think
Atari wasn't even a thing.
because there's a lot of zombies.
Sorry.
There's a lot of zombies, but there aren't that many zombies to where killing a good like half dozen wouldn't make a huge difference in this plan. So that's what I say they should have done. He doesn't, but the fire gets them to back off, so they get to the truck, and for some reason they're having trouble, and the girlfriend of the teen guy is all like, "Oh, I'm coming with you," and it's like, "Oh, that's a bad plan."
Yeah, Judy fears for his safety, so she feels like, oh, what's more safety if we just add more people
So
to this massacre?
they drive to the pump.
It's like when you're having your cat follow you, even though you don't want your cat to, and he's getting scared but wants to like follow you.
I wouldn't know anything.
Oh,
Oh, your
it's
dog.
very fun.
Oh,
So
dog. Okay,
you-
now I
dog.
get it.
They drive to the pump, and he starts pumping the gas, and he's just like squirting it everywhere before he even tries.
Like,
to get
yeah.
into the,
He must have been from Morgan.
like, like half of the gas just goes on the truck.
Yep.
And by the way, I want to check something real fast. Cindy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
there.
just
I
check.
heard him laughing.
You were quiet for a 2nd. I'm always worried with this because the last time he like dropped out, and I wasn't
Actually,
sure.
this
Nah,
recording
you
has been
would
going
know.
a lot smoother.
It is a lot
Nice.
smoother, and I was going to tell Jesse, you'll know when he's gone because you'll hear doo-doo-doo. Like when you
Oh,
hear
you're
that,
right.
because
It's
remember
like a
we heard that and we
disappointing
just kept
noise.
going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ben had sat his torch down, and it just happened to be the path of where
Of
he's
course.
spraying all the gas. And so the gas catches fire, the truck
Mm-hmm.
catches fire, the tire catches fire, and then they're like, "Oh shit! I know what we
And
should
Judy
do. We
catches
should get
fire.
into the truck and drive
and just
away."
drive away.
Solid plan.
I love
Solid
it when a
plan.
plan comes together.
I did too. So Ben is watching them drive off, and he's just like, "Oh god."
I get that reference.
And then they explode, and Ben is just like, "Well, shoot, I'm just to run back to the house real fast." And so the truck is on fire, and then
Yeah.
he gets to the door, and Harry is standing there, and he's like, "I'm not letting that guy in."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Let me in, let me in." And eventually, like, does he break his way in? Because I don't think he opens the door for him,
I
or
can't
does
remember.
he?
Yeah, I think I can't remember if it
No,
was
Harry eventually does.
After like
Yeah.
a
but,
minute.
and then like
because people were
But-
pleading with him, right?
Yeah.
or something.
I think so.
Oh yeah,
and
the
then,
wife
like,
is
Helen or whatever.
Yeah, and then as soon as like Ben's helping like close the like bar the door,
He's just like,
he turns around, punches Harry.
Which I would have totally.
it's
done
really
that.
great because he just like gives him a solid stare down for like 5 seconds before he does it, like, "You son of a bitch,"
And it's just dramatic music.
and he's
You
clearly
get a chance for it to build up.
and he's clearly punching like 2 feet to the right of his head.
Right?
Oh, and is this at the time where we find out like they asked like why is like what's wrong with your daughter? And
They
that's-
do at some point, and
then-
basically they were attacked, and
they
she
said
got
that
bit.
Yeah, so the audience is like us. We're like, oh man, she's probably going to turn
Well,
into
I
one of
actually
those
have a
freaks.
question about that because are these bite zombies or are
Yes.
they just when you die? You
Yeah, they bite.
Come back.
They are bite
I mean,
zombies.
they do
but,
bite,
Oh,
but does the bite
No,
affect you?
because
but
remember
no,
she
the
said
thing is
after,
I think that's, of course, nowadays it's not a twist to us, but I think back then it would have been a twist.
yeah.
You don't think it was just that
Um,
like she died of the wound and then came back?
What happened
Yeah.
was
Nah.
they said was when she was bit, she became very feverish,
Uh-huh.
so the virus was taking effect.
Because if you notice, a lot of the
Didn't
zombies.
the remake?
I think
do the other thing for Ben.
I can't remember. Oh, what do
But
you mean?
because like like in the remake, Ben's wounds was just gunshots, and then like
Did
at
they
the
remake
end,
this movie?
Yeah,
yeah, they
in
did.
'93
It was
was
actually pretty good.
Tony Todd, in which I'm going to spoil it a little
and
bit.
Tom Savini.
Yeah, Tom
No,
Savini.
I thought
Like the
that was
Savini.
the sequel though, like Day of the Dead.
No,
No,
there's
Savini
a-
did. Yeah, Savini was on the Day of the Dead. Like he,
Oh, okay.
Savini was on all of
yeah,
them.
yeah, of all
No,
of them.
he,
Yeah,
Not
he
on
was
this
going
Not
to be
this
on this one, but he went to Vietnam for war photographer.
but
like
yeah,
got
they
drafted.
literally made it's '93, and Barbara's even more likable in the '93 one. And
I like Barbara
and
a
I will
lot.
say, Ben. I liked Ben's character, how they did him in on the remake than the old one.
I
Because
like
the old one
casting
pissed
a
me
lot
off.
in that one.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say real fast is the reason I was asking you that is because a lot of the zombies that you see are in they're in hospital gowns or
Yeah.
clearly what they were buried in. So a lot of these zombies aren't like being bitten; they're just like rising from the graves.
Well, they were saying, and the news said something across the lines of like when they do realize it is the undead coming back to life, they saying that pretty much the undead. I can't remember exactly,
like
but
the
they're not buried.
unburied dead.
The unburied dead.
The unburied
So
dead.
because they
technically,
talk about a mortuary, don't
so
they?
so
where they're,
I'm
like,
thinking
coming out of?
I'm thinking pretty much like I always kind of wondered this myself, like as I was getting older, was if the actual people were alive under 6 foot and they just can't get to the
just like,
top.
"Eh."
Yeah, they're
Almost
just
definitely.
Brains.
you know?
Right. Do you want to party?
This is why Family Guy Adam West is right, and every time you have a funeral, you pour concrete over the grave.
Yes.
Thank you later.
Yo,
But since we're
love
already
that.
talking about like now because we
Since
heard
we're already
about the
talking
report-
about Adam West.
No, Adam West, rest in peace. No, I was gonna say the fact that like since we're talking about what we heard on the newscast thing, let's bring up the fact that they believe that this is all stemmed from a a satellite dish or satellite that they
'Cause-
shoot up around Venus and radiation.
Because they
is on
cut
that.
away to Washington to follow like a general
Yeah.
and a doctor, and they're like, "Oh, no comment." And then news reporters are like, "But it is a satellite from Venus, right?" And they're like, no comment."
I really like how the zombie starts.
I
in this
feel
one.
like-
It's
Yeah.
like I really like B movies. You know, I blame
It's
a
exactly.
ton of
It's
Godzilla
such a
stuff.
1950s,
It-
60s
it
B movie.
really
premise.
is.
I almost did need the explanation.
Like I
just
expected to see like ray gun effects on like a spaceship going through.
because I feel like if we were living in the 1960s and when this shit hit the fan, I would like to know that like everybody's just so fucking confused. Like no one understands what happened. It's just you know.
Here's the thing. I do agree that I love the pulpy sort of sci-fi explanation.
See,
but a
I
part of me
love that.
does like watching this movie. I'm like, I do wish they just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, it happened one day and we don't know why.
It definitely
I
beats
think-
Norma Ruin Hell in my opinion.
I like No More.
See,
Room in Hell.
I agree with Sydney on this one.
I would like it. I would like it more if that movie was more supernatural. You know,
Uh-huh.
but it's not really. It's just a zombie movie.
Okay, you gotta admit that's a really good line though. That's why
It
it's
is.
on all
It
the.
is
It's a
box
fucking
covers.
killer line.
It's so good. It's the tagline on the poster.
Also, the newscasters at this point, or at some point, said it's like, oh, by the way, you could kill them with fire or a single shot to the head.
Yes,
The brain.
when they're interviewing the sheriff.
That happens later.
No, like
oh,
that's
that-
when they were talking.
Yeah,
about
that is okay because, what?
We're not talking like that.
Oh yeah, yes. I didn't know. Oh no, Liam, you can't strike us back.
Nah.
So, well, yeah, let's just talk about that. They
Let's
do.
just go ahead, throw it out there.
They talk about the newscast shows a bunch of like Texans going around shooting things with like guns
No,
and like
this is a Far
No,
Cry
bandoliers.
this
five.
isn't. This isn't the 1960s. They don't have to be Texans. People in Pennsylvania in the 60s
Yeah,
were
well,
like that.
it's-
I choose
Agree.
Pennsylvanians were just as tough as
The
Texans.
Gothic
this-
state of Pennsylvania.
But it's definitely you could see this is actually bringing out militia groups.
It's like
you
20
know?
dudes walking down the street just
Yeah.
shooting everything they see.
Yeah.
Which again,
It's
it's
kinda
another
rad.
funny B-movie premise because it works in the end. You know.
Well, that's the
Does
thing.
it,
It's like
though?
well, hold on. The thing is, in the moment, this feels all drastic and world shattering. It's like, oh god, the dead are rising from the
but
graves.
whenever you
but then it
see-
shows the next morning, and it's like, oh yeah, we just took care of it. We shot him. It was fun.
Well, and
But yeah, because
some
even
beers.
when they talk to those guys, like it would have been so easy. Like again, this is another like in a modern movie, those guys would have been gun-toting, shoe-spitting rednecks, you know.
These guys were.
But
just
in this
normal.
movie, they're just normal dudes. Like, yeah, we're just helping out, doing our part. You know, I mean, it's a shame that this happened, but
Pass
you know,
around
well,
you just
and,
gotta do what you
and
gotta
that
do.
and that's the thing about those militia groups. Like back even like in the olden days when militia groups got together and they because they wanted to like kind of police their town.
I
or
think
whatever.
Ron's about to start talking about the time he was in a militia group.
Yes, no.
Yes.
But what I was
Were you
going to say
shooting
is,
zombies?
Was it
no,
for Dallas Cowboys?
why the law worried about a lot of those militia groups was that they would shoot first, ask questions later. Like a lot of innocent people would die. you
There's
know?
also another thing about
Hence
this.
the ending.
hence the ending of this movie.
Yeah. That's the ending. Which is yeah. So we know that things are being like sort of dealt with. I think there's another clip later where they do have like the full interview with the guy where it's like, oh yeah, we're working around the church and like we're meeting up with the National Guard over there, and it's all rather well organized for something that's like.
Well, again,
spur
that's
of
what
the
I mean, though.
moment.
In a modern movie, they just be a bunch of like trigger-happy gun nuts.
They would
But
be
in this movie,
like
they're
riding in trucks, drinking beer, going yeehaw.
again.
Yeah,
but in
you-
this movie, they're just a bunch of dudes, and they're like,
This
"Yeah,
could
we're just
never
helping out,
happen
you know."
today. You
Like,
know why?
Why?
There'd be people that came out and said, "Hey, what about the zombies' feelings? Why do you have to kill them? They need their rights."
Doesn't one of the dead movies do that, like zombie rights?
Are you?
I think one of they do.
I hope-
Resident Evil does it, like the animated movies. Dead Rising 2 does it.
yeah, Dead Rising does it. That's what I'm thinking of.
And man, oh man, I want there to be a good Dead Rising movie.
Which
never
which I
gonna
like
get
those situations because
It's
like
called Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Oh, is it the?
You're
Those,
in a
uh,
mall.
those,
You're right,
killing
but
things
I
with the
no,
things in the
I
mall.
want to see a car battery attached to like some Blanca head.
Okay,
and
that's
then,
not
like
a Dawn of the
shooting
Dead.
lightning and stuff like that. Like no, I Dawn of the Dead is like is like super awesome movie, but for Dead Rising, I want to see something ridiculous and just.
well, they did
super
make
awesome.
one, but it was terrible.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
you're
prefer
right,
not
they
to
did.
talk about that.
I remember
one.
that at Vintage. I was like sorting
The only
Ds one
thing
day.
I know about that movie is if you bought like a new copy, it came with a bunch of temporary tattoos that look like scars and stuff. That's all I know about the movie.
I
So
want it.
there's tension in the room now. Yeah.
In the air.
Because they're all like, "You beat the shit
Cut
out
it
of me," and
with
he
a
was like, "And
knife.
I'd do it again."
Yeah.
That's where we left off.
I'm trying to think if
Because I know, like, I don't know. I don't know what happens right before when the lights go
don't
out.
they talk about making a run for it? Like, I can carry the girl because
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and then Harry was like just like whispering to his wife how he needs to get that gun.
uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, that's
Ben.
it. Yeah.
And
And
then
okay.
like
So since you talked about like the lights going off before that, yes, they do have the whole interview with the redneck guy, and he's the sheriff, and they talk about like they're showing the German shepherds, they're showing everything they're doing, like systematically going neighborhood by neighborhood, killing anything that's like
It's a
non-responsive.
beautiful day in a neighborhood, a beautiful.
And I do have a comment about the ending of this movie that might get me in trouble, but we'll see.
I
Yeah.
am
We'll
see.
very scared
I-
what you're
I
gonna
actually
say.
have a couple too.
Me too.
It's not scary. It's you'll see when we get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, after this happens, the lights do go out, and they're like, "Oh shit!" And then the
Zombies break through the
they
barricades.
really start going at it with like
Yeah.
hammers and like blocks of things. They're like, "Oh shoot!" I do want to say before this that like they were eating the remains of the teenagers, all barbecued,
Oh,
and
yeah.
deliciously crispy.
Okay, so like the first time I saw this, so 11, and I was eating like ramen noodles.
Slurp, slurp.
Yeah, like just seeing them like fight over the intestines in the tall grass was when
Which
I was like slurping down the
I
ramen, and I was like,
honestly-
all right, I'm done.
I honestly think that scene is kind of what made this movie a classic, because everything that happens before this point is actually like really tame.
But then that happens.
Yeah, and that
it's-
happens, and you're like, what
It
the hell?
had to be super shocking in the '60s.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
it holds up really well.
And I
It
will
does.
say a lot of the movies back then, like around this time or before this time, was always a slow build up, and then like the end, that's when the shit hits the
the
fan.
end is
this
the hit
one,
shit.
this one
Like,
is real. Slow
everything goes wrong at once
Yeah.
because so yeah, the zombies start beating at like ripping the things apart and like smashing and like reaching their hands through the windows, and they're like, help me block this up, and everybody's trying to do their thing, and then
That's when Harry grabs the gun.
and
Yeah.
Ben is like, no, he grabs the gun,
Yeah.
and he doesn't even hesitate, he's just like, I'm gonna shoot you now.
Yeah.
And,
he does.
Harry,
He
Harry
fires
looks
her and-
really surprised at this.
Yeah,
He's all like,
he-
I couldn't
he-
have foreseen this.
Yeah.
I look betrayed.
I was such a nice guy.
I didn't expect this one.
Shoots him again. He falls down the
Down
stairs.
steps,
It's a
yeah.
bad time.
Head wound Harry away.
So his wife like runs downstairs to be all like, "Oh my God, he's dead!" And then she notices, "Oh, my daughter's not on the table anymore. That's
Yeah.
a problem."
This is the creepiest part for me.
I
when
love,
was
and it's weird because like we're so used to this, like a kid killing their parent or something. But at this time, I'm sure that this was one of the first times it was like shown so graphically, and it's so well shot to see her like the slow. It's well acted too to see the slow realization come over her face as she's like, "Oh shit," and then she's just like backing up. She's like, "No, no," and then the kid's just like, "Mommy."
yeah.
You know
And,
what's funny?
yes, if
Just
we're-
like imagine going to the theaters and it's like it's you and your husband. You go home and the babysitter's like, "Oh yeah, your kid was doing great,"
And
it's
they're just like,
"No."
Well, and I think, and like for me, like viewing this now as a parent, after
"You
I
don't want your kid to
no,
trowel you to
no,
death."
but it's the whole thing. It's like kind of like how she did it. Like it crippled her. Like she couldn't harm her child. She
Nope,
couldn't
she
protect
couldn't fight
herself.
back, she
yeah.
couldn't defend herself.
And
See, if my kids, like, I'll know I'll
Sorry,
succeeded
my
as a parent if my kids rip out my entrails.
well, and I know that sounds horrific, but yeah, like I think like. And you don't, and like in her head also, she's thinking that's still her daughter. Like they didn't think, hey, this is some zombie thing that's going to come kill me.
And what's super weird to me is when
Which, again, is another thing that happens in all zombie
oh
fiction.
yeah.
yeah.
And I love when she starts like stabbing her with the trowel, and there's that like weird soundtrack where it's like,
Yeah, that noise did weird me out.
like, it weirded me out. But the first time I saw it, it was like genuinely scary to me. I don't know. It was like a sound I had never heard of. It was like something alien.
And I think that's what he was probably trying to go for. Was he was trying to make you feel eerie
Yep.
about the whole thing?
And so she's very dead, and the
Very.
stabbing goes on for a long time. And so we cut back upstairs to see how they're doing, and Barbara actually does a thing. She like. They're getting overwhelmed at the door, trying to
Yes.
hold it off, and Barbara's like, "I will do a thing," and she helps push the door. Doesn't last very long, and when the door bursts open, the first zombie through the door is Johnny,
Yes.
and she immediately falls to
and,
pieces. She's
and
like,
you
"Johnny!"
can, you can tell because he's wearing his Sunday gloves.
He is, which I question because I don't think he had put them on again.
No, he put them on when he was telling Barbara prayers for
No,
church.
he totally
I
does. He puts them on
Really
right
wanted
because
this
he's
to
getting
be where
ready
the
to actually
zombie,
drive
like
away.
I don't know anything about my former life, but I need to put these on for some reason.
Ooh, gloves.
Well, I'm thinking one of our earlier zombies figured to pick up a rock and smash
Exactly,
the window.
he-
I think
gloves.
I think gloves is
Yeah.
You know,
He
was like,
needed to be whole again.
He
Which,
needed to
like,
be
this is
stylish.
which that whole thing is something that comes back in like one of the later movies, like when they're trying to get Bud the zombie to talk to like a recording of his daughter.
Oh
or
yeah.
something.
It's a lot of unintentional setup in this first movie.
yeah.
But so she gets eaten, and Ben is all like, "Well, I'm going."
We forgot, like, when we were talking about when Helen was getting killed, she was getting stabbed. She wasn't getting eaten or anything. She
I
was
said
getting
stabbed.
Okay, I didn't know if you said stabbed.
I said
But-
they stabbed her with the trowel
but-
for a long time.
Yeah, okay. Moving on.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, Ben is all like, "Fuck y'all, I'm running to the basement," like we said we weren't gonna do. And he closes it, boards it up, and then he's just like, you can tell he's panicking because he's just like, I have nowhere else. Like, if they break through that, I'm done. And so he's
Just hope Harry's not alive for that big "I told you so."
Does he?
And
the girl came up the stairs and he like pushes her away.
Yeah.
And I will say this is what kind of made me laugh, because like if you guys seen Scream, of course they talk about how stupid girls are because they'll
Never
run up
go up the
steps
stairs.
and never and so Ben was talking about like not barricading himself because then he'd be stuck, and then all of a sudden he's actually doing what he said he wouldn't do, and so I thought it was kind of funny that that actually played a part into that.
I also like to point out the minute Barbara wants to help is the minute everything goes wrong.
That was going wrong before.
No, but
Yeah,
She just-
yeah.
Barbara
well,
being
it's
in the
like-
movie, it just I think it's all we can blame Barbara.
Yep.
Yeah,
way
Barbara
to go,
started this whole
Barbara.
damn thing.
You let the whole team down.
So he stays the night there, and then we cut to the next day where there's helicopters going around, and then they're just like walking like 5 yards apart down a field.
Yeah,
all
the
people
militia-
with the guns,
the
and they're just
militia.
shooting
Oh.
everything and piling up bodies to burn
They
them.
say a posse.
Oh, I
Posse,
completely
posse.
forgot to say this one thing.
Oh, what's up?
I was super excited about
It's
it.
a pun,
When-
isn't it?
It was when I saw like evil daughter just like eating her mom and then like go like, or no, eating her dad and then like going to mom. I bet it tore her apart.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right, we got
So,
that
back
out
to-
of the way.
so back to the posse.
They're
Uh,
shooting people.
yeah,
they're
they're-
like, "Oh, we need to clear out this area," and then you see what's his face,
they're
Ben.
like, well, and they were, and also we gotta say that like they were saying, shoot him in the head, shoot him in the head. You got to make sure they shoot him in the head.
Shoot him! Shoot him!
The
So
zombies have left the house, so Ben is all like he's slowly creeping up the stairs, opening the door, looking around, trying to see what's all going on. And there's more shooting, and things are going good. And then the sheriff guy like looks over to the house, and he goes, "Hey, something's moving in there. Hit it
Well,
right between the eyes."
Yeah, no, but you kind of went a little quick on that.
I did.
I wanted to say at this point, like as the audience, you're thinking, "Holy shit, Ben's gonna be the lone survivor, the black guy. He finally survived this damn movie." And then all of a sudden, like Jesse just told us, yeah, he gets shot right between the eyes. This part bothered me, and it still bothers me today. And sorry, Sid, for this, but a little bit of the remake. Kind of a spoiler. Tony Todd plays
it's
Tony
fine.
Todd plays the black guy, and in this one, he actually is a zombie. So when they take him out, he was the undead, and I thought, okay, that's great, but it bothered me knowing that Ben was unharmed, unaffected. And then they just full on just blow his brain.
To be
And they're
fair,
like, another one
this
for the
is
pile.
That's
Super,
the point.
This is super social commentary.
Oh,
Like,
I
This
know.
is the
Yeah, like
entire
that
point.
was
Oh, I know.
completely the point.
Didn't this
Whereas
come
like
out?
him being a zombie at the end of the remake, that actually like granted I haven't seen it yet, so I can't speak for the whole
It's
movie.
really good.
But I feel like that really undercuts the
I think it
emotion
does because the whole
it's
point of
supposed
this
to
is
feel.
supposed to be like bleak and nihilistic.
Yeah, and it was like as soon as I saw him be a zombie, like at the end of like the remake, I wasn't too happy, and that like, and it was a long while since I was thinking about the remake, and the only thing that I always thought was like, oh yeah, the ending. I didn't really like it, so then
See, I liked it.
It feels like they softened it up for
And
people
it really,
who couldn't
and
handle the first.
I
ending.
agree. It did feel like it was softened up, and I think that kind of just. I think what bothers me is the fact that it bothers my younger part of me. You know, like to know that the guy who was okay died that way.
Usually I'm on your
You
side
know?
because
It still bugs me
Yeah,
to
it's
this
still,
day.
and I think that's why I fight with myself, like
I'm-
my inner self.
I'm
on
weird
this.
with horror movies because I know a lot of people are like there for the killer and the kills and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm usually one for the sort where it's like if the main character like fought hard to win and survive,
Mm-hmm.
I want them to win.
If he, des-
Yeah.
if he deserves
I don't
it.
want them to have like a bullshit thing where it's like, oh, the last frame of the movie, we pull you off into the darkness because you didn't actually win. I really don't like those endings for the most part. So this one, I'm usually on board with you, but for some reason, I really like this one. But
Where
here's what
everyone
I'm
dies.
gonna make fun of because I thought about this the last time. This is sort of Ben's fault. He can hear them talking. He hears the gunshots in the helicopter. Like, it shows us his point of view in the house, and you can hear the talking from where he is. So his
Yeah.
And
immediate,
he doesn't even
yeah, his
try
immediate first
to
thing
make
should be
contact.
like, "Hey, hi."
No, but I think what it was the fact that, like, in his head, he was thinking, okay, the army or whatever's here, they're not going to shoot me. They're going to figure out what they're shooting before they shoot. And the militia is not about that. They're
No,
like,
they're not.
and I think the military felt overwhelmed, and they were okay with
and
that.
and that is part of the social commentary.
Yeah.
Where it's like they shoot
You know,
first without thinking
yeah.
about it, and then
I-
they don't even care. They don't even check.
It's like, hey,
There was
another one for
also-
the pile.
But at the same time, which is really interesting though, because at the same time they don't kind of beat you over the head with it. Like, it's like I said, if it was a movie made today, they'd be all up in your face saying, "Oh, it's the militia's
Well,
fault."
it's kind of awkward because this movie is like you would think it wouldn't have aged well, but nowadays.
That's the thing though, is like in a modern day movie, they would have beat it over your head that it was the militia's
yeah.
fault. Whereas in this movie, they're kind of like abrupt to telling you like this is literally the last resort.
Well,
Like, we don't want you to ask questions because, for one, you're not military.
Well, it's also
you're not
it's like
actually
yes,
trained.
they do a bad thing by shooting him, but it's not like like okay, you can't be like, oh, you should like go up and put at risk to yourself every single zombie
Yeah.
or
Well,
person
saying that-
you encounter.
And
'cause
I
then
think
you're gonna die.
I could be wrong, but I feel like there's a point earlier on where they're basically told, yeah, just assume like this place has been messed up for such a long time. It's
Yeah.
safer
Yeah.
for everyone to just assume that they're
Well,
all
and I
zombies.
feel like that's why people like with militias even down through history was the fact that like they were there to help out, and yeah, there was going to be collateral damage, but the overall picture was going to be better.
It's a military operation,
Yeah.
even though they're not
Yeah.
strictly speaking military.
And I do disagree with Ron in one aspect. Most militias aren't there to help out.
Well, no,
They're there solely for their own selfish
no, but they
reasons.
believe they're helping out. That's what I'm saying.
No, they believe they're helping themselves and their
Not
own.
always.
They don't
I
believe
don't-
they're
I don't
helping
agree
out.
with
I will not throw my hat into this.
Hey, Ron,
What?
I've born in Texas, been to Texas.
No,
a lot.
I know,
I've
but-
met a lot of
but-
people in different
but-
militia groups.
No, well, that's a modern day militia group. I'm talking about like militia groups through history. Like I have known like people who believe that they were actually helping out their fellow man or their fellow country, and yet they were making it worse because they were not doing it by the book. They were doing it by they were shooting first, ask questions later.
It's frontier justice, and frontier justice is the most dangerous
Hold
thing.
on,
And it is.
I need
And
to
I
talk
agree.
about Liam about a thing. Why did you just show me that?
Well, it was like this movie came out like after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed.
Oh,
So like, you know, just the black community at the time dealing with that, and then like this movie with Ben being like such an impact, and then he gets killed.
so since this
So-
is an audio thing for the audience at home, I was just really confused for a second because I thought Liam was just like, "Here's a Wikipedia page on Martin Luther King Jr."
Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like,
I was
"Cool."
like, I was thinking like, I don't want to be incorrect on this, so I pulled up like the Martin Luther King and
There's
like, the
definitely
date.
social awareness in this movie. Like
There-
this did,
there is.
like I don't know whether it was Ron or Sydney who was mentioning that they kind of cast him incidentally.
Yeah, well, that was
No,
me.
yeah, it was-
And like that's the thing though. That's actually what I was going to bring up about the
Uh-huh.
ending, is if he did just go with the typical white guy, then there wouldn't have like obviously it would have still had a similar
Uh-huh.
impact, but
I-
it wouldn't have been as
I definitely
important, I guess.
think that once he was cast, that the ending probably did change to like be what it is now.
Maybe.
I would
Maybe.
suspect.
Granted, like I
Would
don't.
you- would you?
I
would you expect
haven't
the
I haven't
actor-
followed George Romero's work very closely, so I can't say 100% certainty.
Would you think the actor would probably like mention this ending to George?
It's possible. Unless, but like I said, this is obviously like a low budget B movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of the actors and actresses were just workers. You know,
We like
this was before the age of where everyone was a Leonardo DiCaprio trying to get his say on the screen.
I'm sure that there's like a book of the making of the Night of the Living Dead, but I haven't read that book, so I can't guess.
Like I said, I haven't followed Romero's work very closely, or very superficially, I should say.
The closest I've gotten to was like I watched an episode of The Core when they were talking about George Romero, and the main actor, I forgot his name. He was the guy in Dawn of the Dead. I forgot his name already. It's the big guy. The guy he was they did an interview with him, and he was.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Absolutely great, and like he was saying like how being a main character in Dawn of the Dead was such an important role for him because like every time he was walking down the street, like member of the black community would say, "Hey, you were the one that lived. You were the one that like." Got away and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
And it left such a positive.
Actually.
What?
So that's actually pretty adorable.
It is, and it was like that got me thinking more about this, which was like another reason why I wanted to pick this movie was because I recently watched that.
I feel like this movie pre-exists the trope of the black guy always dies first in horror.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, of course, back then you were lucky to be a black guy.
So, in fact, I think this may have been the one that started it.
But
like, not that he dies first, but that he
Yeah.
dies.
and you know what's weird? Another person brought up a point about the remake. Like instead of segregation, it's AIDS in the remake because you get a zombie with like a needle and a homemade tourniquet already in his arm.
I need to watch the remake again.
I need to as well.
I own
it's
it,
been
so
a
if you guys wanna
long
borrow
while
it.
since I've seen it.
I got it.
Man, when are we going to watch Land of the Dead?
Oh my god, I love Land of the
We'll
Dead.
have to watch them in order.
So that's the end of the
Fucking hate
movie. He
that
gets
movie.
shot.
You-
and then
You
he's
hate
like-
that movie?
Land of the
Yes.
Dead? The one with the city?
Yes. I like that
Oh,
one.
that one's so
Oh no, we're gonna.
it's-
I'm on the
Yeah,
wrong side.
yeah, I love
I
that.
do like that.
John
premise of it is
Leguizamo,
so
hello.
stupid.
The premise is great.
I feel like, well, that's the thing, though. Granted, it's not as bad as Diary of the Dead.
Nothing is as bad as
I'm
Diary
about
of the
to
Dead.
say, yeah. I was like, yeah, you can't just
I've-
throw a turd up there.
I've
and
never
expect
never
it to-
seen
But, like,
Diary of
you
the Dead.
compare it to the rest of his movies, especially like with the social commentary and everything. All of his other movies, they may not be subtle, but at least they're not beating you over the head. And at least the
It's
situations
clear
in
George
those make
Romero's
sense.
grandpa when he made Diary of the Dead. He's all like-
I just get this feeling of an old man going, "Oh, they like it when I do the social commentary, right? I'll just
You
do
just made him
this thing."
Stan Lee for a second.
I know that's true. Rest in peace.
Excelsior!
Rest in
Zombies.
peace.
So yeah, that's
Marvel
That's how I
zombies
imagine- That's how I
everywhere.
imagine.
so that's
Well,
the
they're
end.
both. Like, I imagine they sound pretty similar. Anyway, go ahead.
That's the end of
Finish
the
up.
movie, and it's a good time.
As I was going to also say that Dwayne Jones, who played Ben, he was a known stage actor at the time. So
I
he
like
was,
it when they're
he was definitely like this was like his first like major thing to ever happen in his life, and
Did
probably
he do any other movies?
yeah, he did.
Really?
He did Ganja and Hess and
Okay.
Beat Street of '84.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say he was in Joanna.
Joanna
Man?
Man? No,
What?
he died in 1988, way
Really?
before Joanna
Oh,
Man.
okay.
That was
Lucky-
the more
lucky him.
important thing to carry.
He actually lived in a world where Joanna Man wasn't a thing.
Lucky him. He got off better. He got off the best.
So that was the first big zombie movie that like shaped
Yeah.
what zombies are for all time.
And I yeah, like you cannot literally talk about the zombie genre without bringing this movie
it is
up.
the grandpa. the
it's
Godfather.
literally
It almost feels weird. Like it's
It's
so
the
important
cornerstone.
and so well known that it almost feels weird talking about it because I feel like I haven't said anything original for the past hour
It
and
probably
a half.
is like the biggest, most talked about movie we've done so far,
Mm-hmm.
except for maybe Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but at least Nightmare on Elm Street. At least that one's easier. Like that one hasn't been talked about by everybody.
Everybody.
Whereas, like, there's freaking historians who talk about
I'm sure there are books that are written about this movie and its impact. So
Yeah.
maybe we added something.
Oh no,
I-
and that was
Maybe.
the whole thing. Was I forgot the guy's name?
I was probably the first
Kirkman?
person to bring up Joanna Man in a conversation.
Oh,
with Knights
is
of
it,
the
is
Dead,
it
so at least there's
Kirkman
that.
that wrote Walking Dead?
Yes.
He literally said that without Night of the Living Dead, he would never have.
Well,
written-
yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like that's like for anybody who follows The Walking Dead out there. Like without Night of the Living Dead, you would not have The Walking Dead.
That's because, and this
and
is
you
the-
have to think about that.
This
like
is gonna
the
sound
impact.
weird. A lot of cultures have vampires.
Yep.
Something that's like dead and comes back and like sucks your life force. Not necessarily blood, but life
Blood.
force.
Yeah.
Lots
I like
of
how you said that. Yeah.
lots of cultures have similar monsters.
Wendigos.
Zombies are kind of their own thing. There's something that's called
Well,
zombies
it's like
in mythology. and
Liam
stuff.
brings up Wendigo, and that's actually pretty original
Yeah,
too.
but like there are zombies in mythology, but they're not what we think of. And granted, like if
And
we showed
they
a
only
modern
exist in
vampire
pretty
to like a
much one
Slavic
culture.
dude in the 1600s, he wouldn't know what that is. But my point is, Romero shaped zombies more than like other horror directors have shaped other monsters. Like
Yeah, I
this
get it.
wrote the book. In a lot of other movie monsters, there were books already
Was-
made.
Was he the one to coin the term zombie too? Because, like you said, in the movie they never call him zombie.
He wasn't the
Yeah,
one to
no,
coin
they
the
call him-
term existed, but what like pairing what we
But, like,
think
what-
of as a
I guess-
zombie
I gue-
to the word, yes, I would say. Because before you mentioned like Haitian zombies, it was more like that, where it was, oh god, we're probably gonna be like,
Well, I know the word has been around for a while, but I'm just trying to think because, like you said, he calls them ghouls, and that's also a pretty apt description for a ghoul. I'm just curious when those two ideas came
I
together.
don't know as much about like zombie lore as I should, so I don't want to talk about like what the term meant before this movie.
still there?
But
Yeah.
yes, he definitely
Uh-oh.
you get my point, right? That he definitely shaped this.
Yeah.
It does go without saying that every zombie movie or show that there's ever been owes everything to this movie.
Otherwise,
It's a great movie. You guys should watch it. So,
well, okay, well.
all right. So,
And we're back.
and we're back.
So we're gonna finish. We're gonna finish up with closing thoughts. Liam, would you like to go first?
yeah, sure. So I really like this movie, and like when I just rewatched it, I did have like I did watch it super late at night, so that was like one of the cons. I recommend watching it when you're a tad bit more awake than any other film. But yeah.
Sydney,
And-
shush. So, Liam, what were you saying?
Well, it was like after watching this, I really like B movies, and I like science fiction pulp, and like I also like classics, and this managed to mix all of that into one. But when it comes to the whole pacing, you know, since it is a 1968 movie, I want to give it 9 out of 10, but with like a Liam sticker of approval.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll go now, and I have a weird thing, and I don't know if it's gonna make sense. The people who know what I'm talking about will be like, "Oh yeah, I totally get you." They're like baby's first horror movies, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean like there are a certain set of first horror movies that are like really scary to you at the time, but like as an adult, if I had watched this like when I was 20 and like I'd never seen it before, it wouldn't have scared me at all. And there's also like this class of movie that's really amazing with, like we talked about at the start, where it's like it's Saturday night, it's midnight, and like you're alone sneaking because you don't want to wake up your parents and that sort of thing. This is that kind of movie where I just don't know how to explain it any more than that. And something about that adds to the atmosphere of the movie itself, making it eerier and scarier. So there was a great impact this movie had, like on me, on the culture at large. It's just a wonderful time, and like we make fun of it. There's like things that you could poke and prod at, but like if we're just judging it solely by merits and impact, I would also give it a 9.
Nice. Yeah.
Ron time.
Okay, for this movie, I really like this movie, of course, because it brings me back to when I was a kid and watching horror movies, like especially like late at night. Fond memories. Of course, it wasn't the most gruesome thing I watched at that age, but it was definitely something that I really enjoyed. Just a real quick thing is, yeah, it's unnerving at times, like with the child, and then of course, like when the main character you think is going to finally survive, he ends up dying. So I mean, it's still very impactful even after all these years. So with that being said, I also give it a 9 out of 10 with a major stamp of approval.
Yeah.
So
And
now it's Sydney's turn.
Well, I personally would also give this movie like a 9 out of 10 myself. You know, it definitely has its problems and its flaws, but it definitely outshines those. Perfect late night watch with you and some friends or whatever. Like for Haley and I, this is like a perfect date night movie. It's just a blast. Like, I'd recommend it to anybody, even people who don't like horror or old movies. I'd still recommend it to them because it does feel like a super important movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess now we'll go into like
Our next. Oh,
well,
yeah, the
like
emails.
contact us at somebody else talk because I don't know the name of these things.
Yes. Contact us at Mike at the Asylum 4.
You
my
just messed
bad.
up our whole thing, man.
Yeah.
How will they know
Mike-
how to talk to us?
It's
Don't-
Mike in the Asylum 4.
Yeah, man. See, my brains are just rotten.
And follow us
Yeah.
on all social media, Facebook, Twitter. You know, we need more followers.
Eventually, we're gonna have like questions to ask the audience
Yeah.
for next time, but we're not there yet. Like
Yeah.
we haven't organized.
We might. Hell, since it's Jesse's pick next, maybe Jesse will figure out a question to ask the audience on next podcast.
Next podcast? Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna
So-
say it's like don't put me on the spot.
No, for the next one. Yeah.
So it's my turn, right?
Yep.
Okay. So shoot. The movie I have picked for us is a 2012 shit. It's Canadian.
God damn it!
Wikipedia, you lied to me. Well, hey, that's like closer than I've been before. It's a 2012 horror film called American Mary, and that's
Oh, damn it. When I said American Beauty, this is the movie I meant to say.
Right.
Have you seen it, Sydney?
No, but Haley told me about it. I'm not going to say it sounds like my kind of horror movie, but I'll still give it a shot.
I was gonna say, knowing you, it's probably not, but we'll see.
I did like May.
It's
So.
it's very niche, and
Okay.
it's very. I don't know if we need to give warnings for these sorts of things, but it does go to some places that like some viewers may not find comfortable. So
I do like niche horror movies, but my favorite niche horror movies are closer to like David Lynch stuff. And not the American Mary type stuff.
We'll see how it goes. It's good. It's the good type of horror that it is.
Have you watched this, Liam?
No, I haven't heard.
I
of
haven't
it.
either. So it's definitely going to be something interesting. Is it subtitled?
No.
Okay.
No, it's English.
Okay. I didn't know if it's French because Canadian could
I
go
got you
either
halfway
way.
there.
Okay. All right.
So that was Night of the Living Dead. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll hear from y'all next week.
Yeah, have a good night.
Y'all have a good night now.
Guys, have a great night. Take care.
All right.